Hello, this is Justin with a quick preview of the last 4 Patreon episodes, just to let people know what they're missing out on if they are not subscribed at patreon.com/theimportantcinemaclub. We discussed such important topics as 3D movies. Were you ever a fan of 3D when you were a kid, Will? Like, was it something that you found attractive? Like, oh man, that movie's in 3D.
Well, what kid isn't a fan of 3D? In theory.
Mm-hmm.
In theory.
Things are coming out of the screen. I remember that Terminator 2 commercial that would play all the time on television. It was like the T-1000 was like, oh, coming at you. Actually, the T-1000,000, because it was based on the ride that was at Disney World.
It was at Universal Studios in Orlando,
That's right, yeah.
Orlando, Florida, where I went.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the T2 ride. They got Arnold's back. They got Linda Hamilton back.
He was out in front of the screen, and by that I mean Arnold lookalike riding around on a motorcycle.
Yeah, there's an Arnold lookalike who's live in person, and then there's a video component that had the real Arnold. And I remember there's a scene in it where Arnold wields a gun and he shoots another Terminator, and the Edward Furlong character, who I don't think was played by Edward Furlong.
I think he was, because I think he came back, yeah.
Oh, he looked different, but this is a 20-year-old memory, guys.
Yes.
Anyway, he said to Arnold, "Did you know him?" And Arnold goes, "High school roommate."
And it's like, wait, I have a lot of questions about this. We also discussed Army of Darkness. Last episode, Will discussed how he's getting to the point that city lights may not hold anything for him anymore because he knows it so well. And boy, I reached that point with Army of Darkness many years ago.
I actually did too, to be honest. This was one I probably didn't have quite the same relationship as you did. I did watch this a lot when I was a teen. Pretty much memorized it, you know?
It's one of those movies that is so bold in its strokes that it's very easy to memorize because, you could play call and response with the picture so easily as each, one-liner quip comes up. There are no big monologues except for one to memorize here.
So when did you first watch this movie?
Now, this movie I had just moved to Castleman, a small French town, in 6th grade, I think, or 7th grade, and I was flipping through the French channels, and I saw this scene of just skeletons walking over a bridge, and I believe I taped it, and I taped it from that point to the end, and I was blown away by it, but I had no idea what it was. And of course, we had to talk about Peter Bogdanovich's The Cat's Meow.
We were filming The Other Side of the Wind, and we were between takes, and I remember talking with Orson about Greta Garbo, and in my pedantic way, I said, "Isn't it a shame that she only made 2 really great movies?" And Orson sucked thoughtfully on his cigar for a moment and said, "Well, you only need 1. And he was right, and for me, that one was The Cat's Meow.
Oh my God, I'm laughing, but I also have tears streaming down my cheek because it's like Peter Bogdanovich is with us today.
Oh, yes. We didn't really address the passing of Peter Bogdanovich on this podcast, I'm afraid, but I was quite sad by his death. Were you?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, okay. I think we know who the bigger Bogdanovich head is. I mean, Bogdanovich, what can you say? Nobody straddles the first and second half of cinema history like that man does.
And he refused to move from that point. And finally, we return to the Patreon well of Brian De Palma with a discussion of his titanic flop, The Bonfire of the Vanities. Will, you're an intellectual guy like me, which must mean that you're a big fan of the books of Mr. Thomas Wolfe, are you not?
Well, I'm such an intellectual that I would like to make something clear. We're talking about Tom Wolfe, the journalist from the 20th century, and not the 19th century author Thomas Wolfe. The two are often confused.
Well, Tom Wolfe, he lets the public call him that, but his friends, he goes by Mr. Thomas Wolfe, or he did. Rest in power, Mr. Wolfe.
I am glad you bring this up because I am very familiar with the work of Tom Wolfe. I remember when I was a teenager reading I Am Charlotte Simmons, his 3rd novel, not probably his best novel, and finding it a very eye-opening expose on this thing that was very scary to me called college.
Tom Wolfe, you cannot go to a used bookstore today without seeing hundreds of copies of his books haunting the shelves.
That one and Back to Blood, which I haven't read, is constantly there.
If you would like to hear the 20-plus minute episodes of all of those topics, go to patreon.com/theimportantcinemaclub now and become a $5 member. You will not only get everything that we discuss, podcast, but everything that we'll release from that point forward, as long as you're still subscribed, and our gigantic back catalog. Tons of great discussions about movies that are popular or very specific. If you enjoy the show, I hope you become a Patreon subscriber.